Hi there, this is a video for ankle mobility, specifically for ski mobility. Very important to have good ankle flexion in Nordic skiing. So this is a great mobility work that you can do for about 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes in the midweek. Or if you could increase it to about twice a week, it'd be more beneficial. But for any busy schedule, if you can start with at least once a week, you'll be ahead of the game. So we are going to start standing, and we're going to start in a Tadasana, mountain pose. If you have a wall close by, some of these exercises would be done best against the wall at first while you gain some balance. Later on, if you want to take it away from the wall, that might be the next step in development. Okay, so we're going to make our way to Tadasana, mountain pose. So I have them all behind me, and I'm going to be turning to use that wall once we settle into a practice. So like any practice, we're just going to come into a soft body at first and just connecting into our breath. Inhaling and exhale. Starting to get a little bit more engaged in your Tadasana, feeling the energy in the feet, rising upwards through the body, feeling the quads maybe engaged and your belly engaged. So low belly, transverse abdominis is pulled in, mid belly pulls in and up, and just broadening of the collarbone. Nice strong Tadasana. Strong, but still finding some softness. Take a nice big inhale and an exhale. Open the eyes if they're closed. We are going to start. I'm going to take a spot next to the wall. So we're just going to start by drawing our right knee up into the chest and circling. So we're going to start with some circles of the ankle. Now when you draw the shin into the chest as opposed to out without any drawing in, then you may end up moving some of your legs. So this mobilizes and you can really focus on the ankle joint. So about 5 to 10 nice slow circles. I'm going to speed this up so the video isn't quite as long. And then you can slowly rotate the opposite way, about 5 to 10 circles. And then you can flex the foot and point. Flex and point. Just getting some nice slow movement at first. And doing 5 to 10 per session, maybe building, maybe starting with 6, and then building as you progress through this. And then release. You're going to take it to the other side. And you're going to draw your left knee in, find that strong drawing in towards the chest, and then isolate the ankle. Circles going clockwise. We'll do 5 to 10 in this direction, and then reverse 5 to 10 in the opposite direction. And then point and flex, point and flex, point and flex. And 5 to 10 of these, not rushing, just nice and slow. Feeling into the ankles, and then when you get your set reps in, then just release, foot down. Then we're going to start some raises. So we're going to move into a lift and then a lower. Lift and lower. You can take your hands again away from the wall if you want to test your balance. Lift and lower. Hands can be at heart center, or you can even open them up. And lower. So nice eccentric lower, nice and slow, building up muscles. heels. Heels down, lift the toes. This is where you're getting into the shins. You're gonna really feel that, heating up the shins. And lift. You can keep a little bit of a soft knee and lift. A couple more of those. So moving through this progressively, you can add on maybe up to 10. And then the tricky one is we're going to move to a heel walk. So lifting the toes, coming to the heels. You can use your wall for support to start, and then when you have your balance, start to walk forward on the heels, and then walk back. Walk forward, lifting, keeping the toes lifted, and then walk back. And you can do that a couple more times once you get more flexible in the feet and you're not starting to cramp. So you can add that onto your series. And then we're going to come down to the mat. Just going to get my sequence back up. All right, so we started at the wall and we did our rotations, then a pointed flex, and then we did our heel walks, lifting first and then heel walks. So now we're going to come to a toe squat. Now this can be quite intense. I have feet issues with bunions and just very low flexibility in the feet, so I generally have a hard time with this, but knowing that you can start to develop some strength, and if you have good flexibility in your feet, you might not find this at all challenging. So you want to be able to draw your shoulders back so they're stacked over the toes. And from here, you're just gonna pause. I'm going to come off, but when you would do that, you would pause for about 5 breaths to start, and then you would gradually build into a longer hold, maybe 5 to 10 breaths. And then to counter that, we're gonna come into Virasana. So feet are now flat, pressed into the mat. You could always have a blanket underneath here, under the feet, and really press into the blanket. So whatever feels good for you. And then adding on, you could have blocks in front of you. So pausing here in this position, weight is on the heels. You can take a few breaths, inhale, and exhale. Another inhale, and exhale. You can slow this right down, holding for about 5 nice, long, smooth inhales and exhales. And then to make this a little bit more dynamic, you can start to push into the blocks and lift your knees up, getting really big stretch through the front of your ankles and feet, and then lower it down. Push and lift the knees and down. Another option is to have the blocks behind you or your fingertips and keep the spine long, and then lift the knees from here and down. Lift and down. 2 options. So doing 5 to 10 lifts, and then coming all the way up into tabletop. So you might need to tap out the backs of the feet a little bit to get some blood flow back in. Feel free to take some movements here. And then we're gonna move into a calf stretch. So I'm just gonna move my body forward. I'll be out of camera a little bit just so that you can see my legs, and I'm going to stretch out my right leg first. And you're going to get into a nice calf stretch. So pushing into the right heel. And this is a nice stretch that should go all the way up the calf, but still increasing some ankle flexion. Couple breaths. And then you would work through this. This is a nice stretch, so you might be able to hold it a little longer. 5 and then release, and then you're gonna switch it to the other side, pressing into the left side heel now. Keeping the spine long, always trying not to gaze straight down, try and look slightly forward past your mat to keep the cervical spine nice and long. Take an inhale and an exhale. Another inhale, exhale, release. So again, holding that for 5 to 10 breaths. And then from there, we're gonna move into our down dog. So tucking the toes and lifting the hips up, coming into a nice down dog. So you can shorten up the down dog a little bit. Normally I might have my heels back a little further, so just shortening it up. And then pressing evenly into the palms and then elongating your arm bones. Maybe you need to bend your knees and maybe you need to lift the hips up a little bit higher. And then from here, we're gonna lift the heels so you're coming high onto the ball of the foot. You're gonna drop one heel down and the other. So this little pedaling back and forth, stretching into the backs of the ankles and the calf. So doing this slow march back and forth. And then from here, you'll do that about 5 to 10 times, probably 10 because you could do 5 each side. And then you're gonna lift the heels up and then you're gonna slowly lower them down to the mat and pause. Really focusing in on breath, and you're gonna lift and slowly lower them down. And pause, taking an inhale and an exhale. And then we're gonna do one more lift. So you could do this even 5 times and lower. And now we're gonna hold this, holding our down dog for about 5 breaths. Working your way up. If 5 breaths is too long, you can start with 3. Maybe eventually moving into a nice long hold, 5 to 10 breaths. And then we're gonna come down onto our knees. We're gonna move into some lunge stretching. So I'm just gonna turn so that I make sure that I can show you. So we're gonna start in a low lunge Anjaneyasana. If you have blocks, it's always nice to have blocks that elevate and elongate the arms so you can drop the hips down. So just take some first few movements forward and back. We're gonna dig deep. This is you probably getting some stretch in your left hip flexors, and that's always beneficial. But we're gonna target our right ankle. So I'm just gonna move this block away so you can see, and I'm gonna slide my right ankle in about 3 inches. And then I'm gonna just walk my left leg back, make sure your hips are nice and square, and that normally we don't cue to go over your knee past the toes, but in this instance, we are really targeting our ankle. So you can start to lean into this, and then you can use the block. So my knee is tracking over my midfoot or into the center of my foot, past the toes. And then I'm gonna start to breathe and relax into this. Softening into the shoulders, always softening where you don't need. And again, like all the other stretches, build into this. If this is too much, then just see if you can pause for 3 breaths, maybe working into your 5 to 10 breaths. And eventually you're gonna feel some release down the back and into the ankle. And then we're gonna release. And then you're going to repeat that on the other side. So finding that low lunge first and just gradually working into it. You can do it without blocks if you don't have blocks, just hinging forward and back, just because you don't want to dump right away into a big hip flexor stretch, which is on the right side now. And then leaning into it. And once you feel ready, you can slide your blocks in and you can slide your left heel in and then start to walk your right leg back a little bit so that you can weight into your left ankle. So just so you have a visual, you're getting a big, nice stretch there. And always acknowledge that one side might feel different than the other. Making sure your knee isn't rolling in or too far out. You want it in line with your foot, just like you would for squatting. And this is where you soften. You can use your out breath for an extra softening. So inhaling, feeling some expansion and energy. Exhale, softening. Always using your breath. Inhale and exhale. Another inhale and exhale. So 5 to 10 breaths. And then you can bring your left knee back down to meet the right. Come back into that tabletop position. And just take any movements between our stretches. If it feels good to bump the hips from side to side, even shaking the legs out is a nice way to reset. And then I'm going to turn towards the camera so you can see this one. This one in particular is good for skiing mobility because we are going to angle our leg out. This is a modified gait pose. So you can have your back leg angled in and just finding the depth that you want to go. So basically a lunge, but with an external rotation, a low lunge. So just working your way into this again, hinging forward and back, then slide your right heel in a bit, and then you can do this dynamically. And again, moving forward and back. And the same with the first squat we did. If you want to just work dynamically, you can do that as well. And then pause. So now we are going to pause. You can see that I have an angle of my foot. I'm going to change my position just so that you can see. I've still got an external rotation. My body's forward, knee is to the outside. Probably need to slide that in a little bit more. There, so you get that nice flexion, and then you're just gonna pause and hold. So if you need that extra support of the blocks, just to be able to keep the upper body nice and long spine, try not to round. We don't wanna round into these postures. So watching for any cramping in the hamstrings. You could even do this after a bit of a workout so that your body's nice and warm. And then just sink into these long holds. And using your breath again. And we'll just breathe one more time. Inhale. And exhale. So it's about 4 holds. So if you can manage 5, great. And then you're gonna switch that to the other side, finding that about a 45 on the other side. And again, finding that angle that you wanna get to, and also the depth that you feel like you can get into. Always making sure the knee is tracking over the foot. And then sliding that heel in more so the knee can go past the toes. And really rooting down into the heel, pushing into the heel. really root into the heel, feel that stretch. Maybe a couple more dynamic movements forward and back. And then we're gonna pause and hold this. So body can be forward. You can slightly angle the body. The key element here is getting this nice angle of the shin so that you get that full stretch in the ankle. Pausing for your breaths. And slowing the breath down. And one more, inhale. And exhale. All right, coming back to our tabletop. Again, taking any movements here. Hip bumping from side to side might feel good. Even pushing back into a half or a modified child's pose where you've got one hip pressed out to the side. I'm just getting those stretches in the exterior of the hip. And then we are going to move into a malasana. Sorry, my computer keeps timing out. I'm going to have to modify that film. Okay. All right, so we're going to move into malasana. That is a yogi squat. And so we're just going to step up so our feet are nice and wide. And you can have the blocks in front of you just for some support. And then you're going to bend your knees and sit your hips down, coming into a nice squat. So it is feeling the pressure on the heels. You can use your arms for leverage. And then from the side, yogi squat. Seeing if you can pull the chest through a little bit. And that long spine and long back. And this is a good hip opener, but it's also good for the ankles and the flexion. So heels are down. The other modification for this is to work into it with heels lifted. So you would have a full plank so that your heels are slightly lifted. You can even roll the blanket and just bring the heels to something just slightly lifted. And that gets your back up a little bit more. Maybe you might feel like you could get into some flexion a little bit deeper. Same thing, we pause here. And you would hold this for about 5 to 10 breaths as well. Knowing that you're not just hanging on your limbs, you want a little bit of engagement, pulling up the pelvic floor, squeezing the belly to the midline. Take an inhale and an exhale. Another inhale and exhale. So that as well, 3 to 5 breaths to start, maybe working into a full 10 breaths count. And then just coming into a Virasana and just pausing. We're gonna do just a little bit of breath work as well. So just coming first into a closed-legged child's pose. You can be on the blanket or not. So sending the hips back and reaching the arms long. And just allowing yourself to settle in. You can bring the forehead down to the mat. You can slide your hands all the way back. Maybe taking hold of the heels
And rocking the forehead into the mat. And then relaxing if you like. Breathing into the back body. You can pause here for as long as you like. And if you want to practice a little bit of mindful breathing, which is always good whenever you're doing any sports, and this, just the breath work could even be practiced throughout the week 2 or 3 times, and then learning to develop that breath pattern and that breath awareness always helps. So we're just going to close the eyes down, soften into the shoulders. This could be done even in a sukhasana, cross-legged, if that's more comfortable. You could also come down to your back and do it on your back. We're going to work into a 3-part breath, working into the abdomen, so breathing into the low belly. We'll do that for 3 breaths. So you're going to let the belly relax and fill with air. Inhale, exhale. Inhale and exhale. So really letting the belly balloon out. Inhale and exhale. Adding into that. So we're going to work into the rib area, and then we'll tie all 3 things together. So inhaling, feeling the side ribs expand. And exhale. You can always close your eyes. Inhale and exhale. One more. Inhale and exhale. Now moving into the upper chest. So just thinking about the breath coming into the chest, expanding. Inhale and exhale. You might even feel it lift. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. The next 3, we're going to stream all of those together, string them all together. Inhaling through the belly, up into the side ribs, up into the upper chest. And then exhale, chest falls, ribs draw in, belly draws in. Flowing through that, seeing if you can smooth it all out. Inhaling. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. One more. And exhale, open the mouth side out. And then just blink the eyes open. So that breath work can be done anytime. You can add it in just as we did to the end of this mobility sequence. And you can also just do that 3-part breath anytime. It's great to do a relaxation, focusing on the breath when you're falling asleep. You just lay in bed and work into that 3-part breath. Inhaling, belly, side ribs, upper chest. You can even add a pause on, holding at the top, and then exhale, chest sinks, ribs draw in, belly sinks, and then just keep repeating and working through a nice relaxation. We'll work on some other sequences as well, maybe working through a full relaxation meditation, full body scan. So hopefully you can get something out of this particular video and try the mobility and let me know how it works out.